Hey, friend, welcome back to the Anchored with Purpose podcast. Oh my gosh, today's episode. This is a conversation I could not wait to have with our special guest, Rita Johnson. Rita is in the functional health space in health and hormones. And let me tell you, I don't know about you, but I feel like all of my friends and I, all we are talking about right now is perimenopause. And Rita helps to break some things down for us, help us understand some things. She kind of gave me a little bit of relief about some things. And it almost even felt like a little bit of a coaching session for myself. So if you and maybe your friends are having some of these perimenopause struggles, make sure to listen to this episode and share it with a friend who you think could use the help. We'll see you inside the episode. Well, Rita, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
I'm so excited to be here, Melissa. Thank you for having me.
Of course. This is a conversation I have been waiting for. I am so excited about. This is like the topic of conversation with literally all of my friends right now because this is where we are in life. So, thank you for sharing about a topic that is just so important in the lives of women in this age, in this stage of life, right?
Amen. Amen. It's so true. It's not talked about enough, and there's so much we can do. So I love talking all things perimenopause. It's so
Oh
great.
my gosh. Well, I'm excited. So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? What drew you into the world of functional medicine, nutrition, and hormone health?
Yeah. So it really started. I was teaching cycle tracking using the Creighton model. And while being an instructor for that, I really loved that. I loved getting into this world of restorative reproductive medicine and hormone health and all things related to that. And I just started to feel frustrated. I had client after client that was like, yes, I need progesterone, but what else? What else can I do to support my body to have enough progesterone naturally? And then about that time, I had a secondary infertility struggle as well. And I knew I could go to any of my dear friends who were NAPRO physicians, but I knew what they would give me. And I didn't just want a band aid solution, which honestly, even progesterone can be just a band aid solution. If we, notice symptoms improve and we stop there, we're not led to continue to question, why am I not making enough progesterone? And
Mhm.
so it really was my journey through secondary infertility. And then the Lord sent me on this amazing mind, body, soul healing in this like crazy, wild and crazy year I look back on and I'm like, that was the that was the year that there was like not my healing was complete, but it was this turning point for me in all these different areas of my health. And then at the end of it, when we were pregnant with baby number 5, I just really felt so convicted that I wanted to be a solution for other women to make short circuit their same journey. And so that's what led me to becoming an NTP, which is nutritional therapy practitioner, and launching my own functional medicine practice.
Oh my gosh, that is so incredible. And isn't it amazing how God kind of takes us on these windy roads sometime where we don't know what's coming. We know that it's hard, it's a struggle, but
Yeah.
then when we get to the other side, then we're able to see, look what he was doing here. That is way better than we ever could have thought, planned, or imagined.
Amen.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
So
well
true.
let's get into this because I am ready. So a lot of women, and I know I have too, like have felt like our symptoms are just missed or just chalked up to just aging. So from experience, what are some of the most overlooked hormonal issues that women face in this phase?
Yeah, such a great question. I get so frustrated when I hear women say that all the time. They go to the doctor, and usually this is like part of the beauty of perimenopause, but usually we're facing all of these things at once, right? It's not just our bodies going through this transitional period. It's also like for me personally, my oldest is a senior. So I'm going to be launching kiddos. I'm 40 years old. A lot of my girlfriends are either launching or have launched kids, or kids are getting married or having babies. We have aging parents. We're at a different place in our careers, right? Where it's more demanding. And so on top of that, our body needing more support. I always like to talk about how as we go through perimenopause, it's our body going from being like cotton, where we can just like throw it in the washer and dryer and it's going to turn out and wear great, to like silk. Yeah, you have to like hand wash it and you have to care
Yeah.
for it differently. And, it's not that it can't be amazing still. We just really need to know how to support it through this time. So what are some of those symptoms that I see? Like, I really think it's anytime anytime we start talking about things that we're carrying or things that are heavier now, and anyone around you says something like, oh, that happened to me at that age, or oh, that's because of perimenopause, or that's, whatever it is. Sometimes it's things we experience from our teenage years, from puberty initially. So if you had like bad cramps, if you had bad acne, if you had, whatever symptoms you really carried a lot there, sometimes those are the things that resurface for us in perimenopause. But this is very unique from one woman to the next. So one woman may say it's weight gain that's like resistant to whatever they've used to do that help them get rid of the weight. For others, it's digestive things. All of a sudden, they can't enjoy their favorite foods anymore, or they just can't tolerate things that they used to be able to tolerate. It really varies widely. And I think that's part of the confusion. But I would say, like, anytime you're like 35-ish to like in your 40s before you're hitting menopause, if you just feel like your body is different, like you can't recognize it, it could be marital issues. It could be your skin. It could be, a whole host of things. We have this intuition, like it's probably hormones, but we don't know where to go with that. And so if
Wow.
you have that intuition, or if you're talking to your girlfriends and they're like, oh, me too, those are those things that we're talking about. These are the perimenopause things that we're talking about. You can support your body through this and age stronger and better, which is always our goal.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like, as you're talking about some of these things, I'm like, yes. And I can pinpoint. I was just telling my girlfriends about this over coffee this morning. I was like, okay, so I think my perimenopause journey started in 2019. It
Mm,
was a very stressful year for me. It was a wonderful year. So many of my dreams came true that year, like including like I hit $100,000 in sales. I got to speak on stage in front of 10,000 women. We bought our dream house, right? All of these amazing things happened, but I gained like 20 pounds that
mm,
year. Like I was running, I was still working out, like I was active, and
mhm,
then like I couldn't get it off. Like I couldn't get it all off. And then like the week I turned 40, my hip started to hurt and like didn't stop
mm,
for a long time. And I was getting like weird rashes. And I started working with a functional health dietitian and I had all of these labs done. And Rita, I will never forget, like, as she's reading these to me, and this is a woman who's probably in her late 50s, early 60s. She's reading them. She's like, Melissa, your hormone levels are reading like you're in perimenopause already. But like it was a bad thing and like it was my fault. Like I was
mm,
like, okay, but what do I do? Right?
yeah,
Like, what do I do? And it's interesting. Like, she put me on, like, honestly, like $300 a month worth of supplements, which that
mm,
is just not sustainable. Like, that's a
yeah,
lot of money,
yeah,
and had me on this very restrictive diet. And on
mm,
this restrictive diet, I did lose 20 pounds, but it was also like at what cost? Like, I couldn't live a, a normal life. Like, I eat relatively healthy, but, like, which is just one of those things where I'm like, "Okay, now in my life, I'm working out 6 days a week. I'm running 3 days a week. It's most all 7 days are covered, right?
mm.
It's just like, help! I'm stuck." So,
Yes,
and
yeah.
these are the conversations we're having.
Yes, and this is something that I see a lot where when we go through a period of high stress, it does spiral us faster into perimenopause and it can kind of advance you into those stages of
Yeah.
perimenopause. It's not a bad thing. It's by design. I love to talk about how perimenopause is by design. Our body is remodeling from working under this high level of hormonal output to a low level of hormonal output. So we're kind of like, working our way down this ladder and as we do that, everything is remodeling. Our nervous system is remodeling. Our gut is remodeling. Our cardiovascular system is remodeling because they have to get used to this lower level of hormones. That doesn't mean we can't support our body through this. It does mean that it's going to be different than it was in our 20s and 30s. And so we arrive at this place and we're like, I know this body of mine, right? I've been living in it for 40 years. Like,
Yep.
I know what I need to do to lose 5 pounds, gain 5 pounds, like whatever it is, right? Like I know what I need to do to have energy throughout the day, but we don't. And that's where I would say is really like, that's probably the point that we're like, okay, this is probably perimenopause.
Yep.
That's not a death sentence. It's not an end of fertility. It's not this place where we're like, oh, now there's just nothing you can do. It's actually a place of empowerment. Like now I need to figure out what this means. And it's amazing that there's so much we can do to support our body through it. But unfortunately, we're just not told that very often. And as your story tells, like even in the functional medicine space, it's not always this guarantee that they're going to be able to help you navigate through these hormonal shifts.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right, let's talk about hormones. So, I know you talk about the role that gut health plays in hormone balance. So, can you explain that for those of us who are out here like, I know gut health is important. I take probiotics, but what am I supposed to do? Like, what are the symptoms and signs we're looking for? Help us out.
Yes, I love talking about this so much because it's so misunderstood, the importance of it. So on a very basic level, I want you first and foremost to think about how when we make hormones, then they go through our essentially through our, you can think of it as through the digestive tract, and they're
Okay.
filtered out of our body, right? Okay, so we make estrogen and then it has to go out. Otherwise it's just sticking in there, and then we have too much estrogen, we have estrogen dominance, or our progesterone is too low in relationship to the estrogen. So you may get labs and it says, actually, your progesterone's fine, but it may actually be too low in relationship to your estrogen. The relationship is in a lot of ways more important than your levels in isolation. Okay. So if our body's not getting rid of those hormones after it makes them, then we're going to be in this situation where our hormones are out of balance just from our detoxification system not working ideally. Think about it that way. What ways do we detoxify our body? We detoxify through sweating, through
Yeah.
exhaling, and through bowel movements. And if those are not working well, then we're going to get congested. In other words, our hormones aren't going to be able to balance themselves out. So when we talk about gut health, yes, there is this like in isolation importance of gut health that and the way it impacts everything else. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, and then we'll talk about a little more of that interplay of
Okay.
relationship. So gut health as a standalone foundation to your health is going to be impactful in terms of, us having what we need to be able to make hormones. So some things that come into mind there are like minerals that we need, digestive fats. We need good healthy fats to make cholesterol based hormones, which your progesterone, your estrogen, your testosterone, they're all cholesterol based hormones. So if we're not breaking down healthy fats or eating them, then we're going to have hormonal dysfunction 100% of the time, right? Like that's just like easiest place to like stop and be like, all right, here we go. We need to be sure that we're breaking down and absorbing our fats. Beyond that, we're going to have other dysfunction if we have a lot of inflammation in the digestive tract and we can't
Okay.
absorb those vitamins and minerals, which I mentioned, we also need those to make our hormones, right? On top of that, if we're not having the digestive tract regularly empty itself, so we want to be sure we're having good quality bowel movements. That I'm going to like define that because a lot of times it's just like when we
Cool.
first start charting our cycles, we're like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's normal, right? Like I see this mucus, but I don't know what that means. It's the same thing with bowel movements. We don't talk about this enough. So, to have regular, healthy bowel movements, we should be going about 1 to 3 times a day. It should be the consistency of peeled banana. Cleanup should be minimal. There shouldn't be any straining or pushing. And you should feel like you've completely evacuated the bowels after going to the bathroom. Intuitively, we know what that feels like, but oftentimes we're not experiencing that. Even if it's just one of those symptoms, that
Okay.
does not tell me how much dysfunction there is in your digestive tract. That just tells me that even if you have no other symptoms, there is dysfunction in your digestion. Some other things that we can see that are showing us that we need to support our drainage pathways. So, like our liver health, that kind of thing. And if you're experiencing clots during your period, again, it doesn't really always matter how big the clots are, but if there are clots, that's a key that we need to dive deeper into supporting your liver.
Interesting.
If you've got your labs tested, your estrogen's high, your progesterone's low for where you're at. It's natural for these things to happen as we're going through perimenopause. But when we feel those impacts, right? If we're not sleeping, if we're not able to function as we quote unquote should, and this is through the lens of being gentle with yourself, right? I do think that we tend to idolize busyness. And so I'm not talking about in that state so much, but if you're like, I'm getting 8 hours of sleep and I'm eating nutrient dense whole foods, I'm doing some of these things or I'm doing them enough, like this should be okay, right? Where's my like having a hard time finding that balance? Then that's a sign that we need to dive deeper into how your body needs to be supported. So there's this really strong interplay there, and sometimes it's as gentle as what can we do to support liver health through eating foods that are liver loving foods, so vegetables like our broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, kale, those cruciferous vegetables, sometimes they're hard to digest and break down. And so we might want to try just like a small portion of cooked. So like, only steaming your broccoli or roasting it, that kind of thing, that can make a big difference. But really we need to be sure that the digestive process itself is working thoroughly. And if it's not, then we're, essentially retoxifying our body just from that right there.
Wow.
So we need to be sure that that's working optimally.
Okay, so then what's that step? So then what do we do if we realize it's not working optimally? What are we supposed to do then?
Yeah, good call. So yeah, it is. Probiotics get so much hype, and part of it is because supplement industries are big money making machines now.
Yeah.
They make a lot of money, and so it is. We're told more about take this supplement for this and this supplement for this, but that too is just a band-aid solution. If we're not really diving deeper, it might be a needle mover for some people, and so it might be something that someone's like, "But I took that probiotic and I felt better." Great. If that's where you're at and you notice your symptoms go away and you're like, I could just eat this probiotic, that's awesome. I would challenge you to see if you could get probiotics through your diet more.
Mhm.
Always letting food be more of our medicine than supplement, especially if it's a long-term solution, right? Which this is. So try some more sauerkraut, try some more pickled beets, tried some, dilly carrots, like those kinds of things. They're so cheap to make in our kitchen and so simple. We make it once and it lasts for weeks in our fridge and you just eat a little bit a day. But those can be a big needle mover for some people. Now, if you're like, okay, great, I tried that, or I need that next level, that's where sometimes it can be really helpful to see, like, do we need some digestive support? We need to know what the problem is. Is it secretions? Do you not have enough stomach acid to break down your food? Do you not have enough pancreatic enzymes to break down your fruits and vegetables? Is it that you need help breaking down those healthy fats? Or is it those dietary adjustments? Do we need to eat more healthy fats? So I feel like that's the things that's easy to kind of look at on our own is, okay, could I just increase my healthy fats? Could I just increase eating a little more protein? But when we try to do those things and they hurt, that is a sign that you need to reach out to somebody. You need somebody to help you in your corner because that can be telling us that our body is not able to break those foods down. And if we can't break them down, then the food we're eating, even if it's the most beautiful, amazing, nutrient dense food, it can cause inflammation and
Yes.
make us at a much worse position,
And
right?
that's yes. That has been a personal struggle here, like
Yeah.
with inflammation.
So
And
hard, girl.
it's it's so hard because I'm like, okay, I'm eating the rainbow, right? Like having all of the colors pretty much every day,
Yeah.
trying to like, I love avocado and all of the seeds and the nuts and, I'm embracing those. Like when I was told I should eat those, I'm like, amazing. I love all of those things, but that's still there. And when you said enzymes, that made me think that was one of those supplements that she had me on,
Mm,
digestive enzymes. So maybe it's time to kind
yeah.
of look into some of those.
Totally. Yeah. And you could circle back to that and try, like, I would just try that in isolation. What I find is that something that I do, and kind of going back to your story too, when we do run like a GI stool map, we'll do some type of protocol to help address what's there. But the goal is always to have you not need those supplements long term. And
Yes.
sometimes we need some amount of digestive support long term. And that's kind of where it goes back to like, we need to know what we're taking and why, because we shouldn't be taking this long list of supplements on and on forever and ever. Amen. It should be this like targeted support. And then our body oftentimes doesn't even need that anymore. There may be situations, or everybody's so uniquely different, that you may need some digestive support longer. But the other thing I would say is before jumping into enzymes, because I don't find everybody needs them. And a lot of times people start working with me and they're like, oh, I'm taking this enzyme and it helps sometimes. I'm like, okay, well, it's not targeted enough for your body is
Yeah.
part of the problem sometimes. But also, we can't out supplement bad habits, right?
Yeah.
So, really doing your best to sit down to eat, chew your food thoroughly. Can I set my utensil down in between bites? Can I be eating in this calm, relaxed state? These things seem so little that sometimes we feel so bad. We're like, oh, that is not going to help me.
You mean
But
like not rushing through meals in between meetings?
yes, right? Yeah. Yes. Yes. And like just eating in this calm, relaxed state, praying before our meals is
Yeah.
huge with this, right? It's bringing us into this calm, relaxed state so we can rest and digest. It's amazing how we're seeing this impact of praying before our meals. And that's why so many people in the New Age movement are now doing these gratitude practices before they eat, right? They'll say, like, just look at your plate and imagine how all the people that worked for the food on your plate They're just getting them to do the same thing we're doing as we're pausing to pray, but we're
Right.
thanking our Lord, right?
Right.
For nourishing our body through this food that should be our medicine. And that's where we need to get back to.
Yes, that's so good. You're making me like think about how, like, yes, do I sit and pray before I eat? Yes. Is it rushed? Yes. Is the meal rushed? Yes. Like, okay, this is good, Rita, because I know that the women out there listening can also relate to this, as
Yeah.
we're trying to do all the things. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad though that you brought up supplements because I was sharing with you before we hit record that one of my close friends and I were chatting last week about this upcoming interview. Like we were talking about perimenopause and she was like, "Can you ask her some questions for me?" So here are questions. So Julianne, if you're listening, these questions are for you. So first she wanted to ask about supplements. She wants to know like, okay, collagen that was in, is that still in? What are we supposed to be doing? And then also wanted to know about synthetic fabrics. So maybe you can help us out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's so crazy how hyped up things like collagen and protein are. And that being said, like I think it just makes us second guess them more. I faithfully take collagen every day. We literally travel with it, but it's not. Collagen is one of those things that are naturally making less collagen as we get older, and that's why
Okay.
we have wrinkles, right?
Yeah.
That's why we have these natural things that are happening as a part of this stage of life. That being said, it's hard to sometimes really look at like what is in, what's the hype. I was at Costco one time and it had protein water, and I was like, you guys, you're really doing us a disservice here. Like, yes, we're not eating enough protein as women, but protein water, I want you to just go eat a hamburger. Like,
Yeah.
I want you to eat more meat. Like, this is the way that it should be, not isolating and, making this like it's just a profit machine. That's what it is.
Right.
That's what we're experiencing. So, yes, I love collagen. Yes, I love protein, but, as much as possible, how can we do that through pure whole ingredients? I am putting collagen in my cup of coffee every morning, and that is just my cup of tea.
Well, you know what I also started doing is, and you can tell me if I should stop, but I go to the gym at 5 in the morning and as a way to get my protein in the morning, one of my friends had shared with me that she puts her protein right in her coffee. And I was like, oh, well, I
Mhm.
put my collagen in, I could try that. Read it. It's delicious. It tastes so
Yeah.
good. And then like I've got a little something because I never feel like eating before the gym, but I always have my coffee. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, is that bad? Should I not be having my protein in my coffee?
No, I like that I don't ever want people to just have coffee on an empty stomach, and because that's going to be bad for your cortisol and for really stressing our adrenals, which we want to very carefully protect through perimenopause. We can get into that more in a little bit, but
Okay.
when we have caffeine on an empty stomach, that can contribute to that. So if we
Interesting.
marry it with our
Okay.
protein powder or
Okay.
marry it with our collagen, then that's going to help stabilize your blood sugar, even if you're having coffee on an empty stomach.
Okay.
That being said, Melissa, let's talk about your workout routine. So
Yeah.
tell me, girl, are you lifting weights?
Yes.
You are. Okay.
Yes.
How many
Yeah.
days a week? Tell me what that looks like.
Okay, so I belong to this incredible gym and it's these wonderful group exercise like every day. So it's an hour and I go
Okay.
Monday through Saturday. So
Okay.
and it's a routine. So Monday it's more of a cardio type workout with weights and core included. Tuesday is always upper body strength day. Wednesday is always lower body strength day. So those are heavy weights during those
Sure.
days. Thursday is more of it's a HIIT workout and it's got core integrated into it. It's got weights integrated into it. And then Friday is like a combo, like mostly geared more towards HIIT, but then there's also like sled pushes and all of that kind of stuff in it. And then
Okay.
Saturday is a heavyweight day again, half upper body, half lower body. And then I
Okay.
run Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday.
Okay. So it is possible that you're overdoing it, especially with the like cardio hit.
Yeah.
So I mentioned the adrenals a minute ago.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a minute and then we'll talk about
Okay.
your workout.
Okay.
So adrenals are responsible for things like our cortisol, our melatonin. So they're helping our circadian rhythm, right? That which is going to help us go to sleep in the evening, sleep throughout the night, wake up in the morning, refreshed, energetic, ready to go. They're also helping us with our stress hormones. So our
Mhm.
epinephrine, norepinephrine, which is part of the reason why when we go under a very high stress situation, then we can spiral into perimenopause quicker because
Okay.
of the role the adrenals are playing on everything else. They're also very sensitive to our electrolytes and really getting water into our cells. So if our electrolytes are imbalanced or if we're not supporting them, if we have high stress or if we have disturbances to our sleep or our cortisol, that's where we can really have more of these issues start to compound. It's not the only place, but that is critically important because going back to what I said about hormonally rebuilding from this high level hormones to low level, initially that's happening from our ovaries, right? Our 20s and 30s, our hormones are really coming from our ovaries. The ovaries are slowly shutting down through perimenopause, and then our estrogen will still be in our system, but at a much lower level. And that estrogen is coming from two places. It's coming from our adrenals and our fat tissue. And so, depending on how much fat tissue we have, that can actually be part of a cause for too much estrogen. That being said, when I talk to somebody that's working out so consistently, so regularly, it's hard to imagine that that can be part of what is keeping our bodies stuck. What I find is much more supportive for most women through perimenopause is to do strength training 2 to 3 times a week. That might be an hour. Honestly, for me, in my season of life, it's usually more like 15 to 25 minutes and then walking more. And if you wanted to be like a 10,000 stepper, like that's fine, but it helps our body to not feel like it's running from a bear, right? Because we're literally
Mm,
running and our body is like, is there a bear there? I don't know. Or is there something like we're trying to accomplish? And so
yeah.
that's where sometimes that can be really tricky. And I'm a big fan of combining like my strength training with like a little more cardio, but even that can sometimes be too much. So we have to really look for these other things like how is our energy level later in the day? If we're noticing these energy slumps, it could be, it could be your blood sugar's imbalanced. It could be you worked too hard and your body is trying to tell you that. Sometimes it can be, we can notice that through things like not able to recover as fast, like if our muscles are really sore and fatigued for a long time. Now, that could also be that we're going too heavy. And I
Yeah.
tend to see where women aren't going heavy enough. When I do my 2 to 3 workouts a week, I'm constantly trying to go up in weight.
Hmm.
I'm constantly trying to push that because that's really where that muscle mass increase is going to come into play. And I want you to know too that like muscle mass is going to be one of your best ways to navigate through perimenopause with the most grace and strength. So we can kind of get into why that is if we have time, but that's a huge piece too. So if you're not strength training, strength train. You might be doing too much, so pay attention to that.
Which is so hard because I love it. Like, I love going in there. I love it. And I signed up one of my big goals this year is a half marathon, and so that's why I've
Yeah.
added the running into it, and now I'm just like, and I love to walk. I would much rather walk than run if we're being honest, but,
Amen,
you
sister.
know? Okay, so that's something to think about. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Now, part two, let's talk about synthetic fabrics. Like, we're
Yeah.
starting to hear, like, we're all cotton or all like, tell me all the things about it. What do we need to know?
Yes. So I love these conversations because, it may be that your friend, like, that may be a needle mover for her.
Yeah.
I think we all have this like ability to handle certain things really like it's like we all have this threshold, right? So like people talk about like use the example of like 80/20. Like I can eat really good 80% of the time and 20% of the time I can travel and do whatever and it's going to be fine. And that might be the case. That might be the case for you. It might be the case for my husband. It's not the case for me. Like for me, I know that I'm actually with my dietary stuff, I'm more like 95/5.
Okay.
And that's okay. I made peace with that. I'm so good with that because I know how good it feels to feel good. I
Mm.
know how it feels to wake up and have energy and be ready to go. And so that's more important to me than being able to like fudge a little more when I'm, traveling or not at home or whatever. It applies to all of these other things as well. So for some people, things like scented candles or the hand soap they're using in their bathroom or the plastics their food's exposed to. For some people, those are really big needle movers for them. The vast majority of us are prioritizing these things that don't matter quite as much. We kind of talked
Okay.
about like some of these nuanced, like, okay, sit down, eat calm,
Yeah.
take a deep breath, say a prayer, chew your food thoroughly. The vast majority of people, that is a bigger needle mover than all of these little things that we can stress out about. I had a
Yeah.
workshop in December and somebody was like, okay, you said to eat these other salts, but like, there's heavy metals in them. Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to like overeat heavy metals. And I was like, are heavy metals a problem? Yes, they are. I test people for heavy metals. We, work on detoxifying them. Yes, that can be a big problem for some people. But if we're getting all anxious and worked up about every little thing, we're going to lead
Yes.
to this
Oh
place
my
of overwhelm and
yes.
throw in the towel with eating chicken and salad and these good quality oils and fats. And that is going to really derail you more than anything else. So that's my big thing that I have to say to like a lot of those
Thank
nitty
you.
gritty questions. You're welcome.
Yeah, that is like where I'm like, those kind of things like, oh my gosh, should I be stressed out that like,
Right.
sometimes I run out of Pyrex and we store things in plastic containers and all of my gym clothes are all synthetic fabrics because if I wear cotton, I am a mess. So
For
thank
sure.
you because I feel like that kind of talked me off the ledge a little bit about all of these other things because it
Yeah.
can lead to overwhelm. So
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you. Now,
Yeah.
here's one of the questions that I have for you because I've been listening to some different podcast episodes with Dr. Mary Claire Haver, like who's one of the menopause experts in the world, which is exciting. And she started talking about hormone replacement therapy, which I had never even really heard of. Like I didn't even know it was a thing. And as she's talking about it, and I'm just like, I need to know more. So tell me, what do we need to know, and how do we know if pursuing that is a help or if it would just be a Band-Aid for us?
For sure. I'm so glad you said it that way because that is exactly what the vast majority of the time I see people doing is Band-Aid solutioning with HRT. I want to clarify a few things that I'm on all these boards on social media and all these Catholic groups and these women will say like, but isn't this, I asked my doctor and he said it's the same thing as hormonal birth control. It's the same thing as can I in good conscience take HRT? Like there's so much misconception around HRT. Honestly, I didn't quite realize it's as bad as it is. So let me start by addressing some of those things and then we'll kind of dive into that.
Okay, perfect.
So, it's not the same thing as hormonal birth control, although you may be seeing a provider that would give you hormonal birth control and call it HRT. So we do have to be like really educated and empowered with our own information. Obviously, if you're going to a doctor that is trained in like NAPRO or FEM or something where they're already looking at how do I support your cycle naturally with bioidentical hormones
Mhm.
as opposed to synthetic hormones, which are found in like the hormonal birth control pill, that kind of thing. That's not going to be an issue. So if that's you, you're already in that boat, great. If you're not, you can look at like My Catholic Doctor. There's lots of them on there, licensed in all these different states. So it's different from hormonal birth control because it's not shutting down something that is working, right? And so what we're trying to do is support your body so that symptomatically you're having less symptoms as you navigate through perimenopause. The way that that can be used as a Band-Aid is, I think pretty obvious. Like if we go in and we're like, I'm not losing weight, I'm not able to sleep, I'm dealing with lots of dry skin issues and my libido's gone. And the doctor's like, oh, well, let me see. Yeah, you're 40, 49, whatever, right? It's perimenopause. That's your
Mhm.
problem. Or maybe they look at labs and they're like, oh, it's totally perimenopause. Yeah, so you just need some hormone replacement therapy. The trouble is that all of these symptoms we're dealing with is our body trying to tell us, hey, I need some help. I need some
Mhm.
support through this transitional time. And if we just, suppress those things by taking, and I get we're all busy. I get
Yeah.
like it's really hard to like add in some of these other things. And it's hard to navigate how do I know what it is my body needs? But if we just do HRT and then ignore everything else, oftentimes what happens is that those things resurface later. And they might resurface as different symptoms. They might
Interesting.
resurface as louder symptoms, but it's not really getting to the root of why your body is having a hard time going through this transitional remodeling. Because remember, as that's happening, we call it a critical window because we want our body to learn how to do this long term, right? We want
Right.
when I go into menopause, I'm like, okay, body, now let's do this for 40 years, right? Please,
Right.
God, let's do this for the long haul. Like, this isn't just something that it's like, oh, it's inconvenient, right here, right now. No, this is like, I want to age stronger and I
Yeah.
want to be more, capable of handling whatever life gives me from there. So that's where the issue and the drama, in my opinion, comes in with HRT. We can do it and help alleviate symptoms and support our body at the same time. And that's where I see this done really beautifully. I work very closely with several physicians that we just send people back and forth. They're
Oh
like, okay, they're on HRT. Let's look at what's going on in their gut. Okay, let's look at this too. I'll send them back for labs. Let's take a look at these other things. What kind of progress are we making? All of that really matters because we want to be sure at the end of it that that strength and vitality is what we've gained.
my gosh, that's so good. I feel like this is so much information. I'm going to have to go back and listen to it all again because I should be taking notes. It's so good. But it's not just a band-aid solution. That in conjunction with eating the right things and paying attention to some of the other symptoms and fixing the root cause behind some of
Mhm.
those. But that it's also like I feel like from what I've heard, there were also some misconceptions about hormone replacement therapy too,
Yeah.
which, like, I brought it up to my aunt yesterday, who is like 10 years older than me. And she's like, oh, no, 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 that's bad. So, can you talk about that a little bit too, please?
Yes. So there was a study done, I believe it was in the early 2000s on HRT. However, it was on synthetic hormones.
Okay.
So for those of your listeners that know like the difference between like conventional beef versus grass-fed beef, I like to use that analogy when I'm talking about hormones because when we look at studies that have been done on how healthy is beef for us really, if we're
Hmm.
looking at studies of conventional beef, it's going to be totally different than grass-fed beef, which is healthy animal that's
Hmm.
been raised the way that God intended for that cow to be raised. And so then we can benefit from the nutrient density in that food, right? It's very similar to that when we talk about this interplay between bioidentical hormones versus synthetic hormones. So there was a study done that said that HRT, actually the study itself has now mostly been debunked, which is why it was recently in the news that they removed the black label warning off of HRT
Okay.
because the study itself, and I can't remember all those nuanced details, lots of people have written about it, but it's like it was a small study and they didn't follow, I believe they didn't follow the women long term, but basically they said as a result of the summary of the study that the women that did HRT were more likely to have breast cancer, but they also didn't, one thing they didn't do was they didn't separate out the women that had a higher likelihood of having breast cancer and then they gave them estrogen. Okay.
Okay.
So like synthetic estrogen knowing they're predisposed to breast cancer. And then more of those women went on to have breast cancer. Again, we're not looking at that from bioidentical hormones. We're not
Right.
looking at that from women that aren't as likely to have breast cancer. Were they already? Did they already have cancerous growths? We don't know. Like there's all
Right.
these other problems with it. And so that's why I believe it was about last summer, they removed that black label warning on HRT. And so then it opened up the door and now everybody's prescribing HRT. And this is where we kind of have to get back to like, we only want bioidentical hormones. We really want to be sure we need it. And we want to be sure we're doing everything else so we don't need it long term. We need it much shorter and then we can get off of
Okay, thank you. That is so helpful too, because, I start as I'm, looking up all of this stuff, I see bioidentical and I'm like, what is that even mean? But that grass-fed beef example, that just helps us to understand that. So thank you.
it.
Rita,
Yes,
I feel
yes.
like I have a million more questions for you, and I wish we had so much more time. Like, I wish I did not have another appointment right now. But for our listeners who want to learn more about you or work with you and ask you all of the questions, where can they find you online, and what are the best places to connect with you?
Yes, for sure. So I just want to say real quick, like it's all about kind of going back to the fabrics, the synthetic fabrics versus the natural fabrics. It's all about finding out what are your body's non-negotiables, and that's where I think it could be so helpful to work with someone through this time because it lets you just let everything else go. That feeling you felt when you were like, oh, I don't have to worry about all that. I'm not
Yes.
killing by letting them have synthetic fabrics, right? Like whatever that is, like it's going to be fine. We just need to know what are your non negotiables. So you can find me on, I have a podcast, Health and Hormones, and my website is healthandhormones.org. And I'm on social media. My business practice is Divine Mercy Nutritional Care. You can find me on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram. And yeah, I do have a little guide I'd love to get sent to your listeners as well. It's all about balancing hormones. So a lot of those things we talked about, like anytime there's small steps that can be big needle movers for you, I want that for you. So you don't have to
Yes.
work with somebody. And sometimes we do tend to overinflate like the not only understanding the importance of those little things, but also like my problems are so big, that's not going to be moved by these little things, but
Yeah.
it can. Those can be really
Amazing.
big needle movers.
Thank you. So we'll put the link for that in the show notes. And I believe you've got a workshop coming up too.
I do, yes. So it is next week, but I'm working on how to park this workshop so you'll be able to purchase it after the fact. And so it's a perimenopause toolkit workshop, and essentially I have somebody that's going to be talking about HRT, somebody that prescribes HRT that's going to be talking about that in depth. My dear friend that she has a whole cycle charting class for women as they go through perimenopause. And then another dear friend of mine who talks specifically about intimacy during perimenopause and beyond and how to improve that too, because that's a whole nother thing, right? Like
Yeah.
marriage can take a hit too if we're dealing with libido issues and all of these other things. So, and then we're going to give you a guide on how to navigate perimenopause on your own. So I'll
Oh
send you
my
the link to that
gosh.
too, Melissa.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Rita, thank you for pouring in to our listeners. Thank you. I felt like this was almost like a little coaching session for me. So thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. And I'm so grateful that you shared with us today. So thank you.
Yes, of course. I'm happy to.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Well, I'm sure we will have to have you back because I have probably 17,000 more questions
I
that
love it. Let's do
I want to
it.
ask you for next time. So thank
Yes.
you.
Yes,
And
you're so
to
welcome, Melissa.
all of our listeners, grab that free guide in the show notes from Rita. You are going to want it. And make sure to check out that link for her workshop too. And we will see you next time. Stay anchored with purpose.